Le msebenzi akukho umsebenzi ongarecognize la eSouth Africa ngaphandle kwama-sex work.
This is the Dr. Dlamini Cooking Show. Thank you very much for being here.
Sex work is work. Sex work is work. Welcome back. This is the Dr. Dlamini Cooking Show. And you've often heard me, seen me, even here at home, traveling all over the world, advocating for the human rights of sex workers. And I'm thrilled that I'm bringing you this episode to delve deeper into this very important but often misunderstood topic of sex work is work. And I'm so excited to be bringing you guests who are activists, who are advocates with lived experiences as sex workers, who will bring us their knowledge over the years as the people are referred to as having PhDs from the yellow line. Let's dig in and welcome. I'm honored to be joined by three remarkable guests, and I must tell you from the onset and declare that these three people have taught me, and this is where I've learned a lot about why sex work is work and why advocacy for both legal reforms but also just changing societal mindsets on why sex work is really, really important. And so firstly, I want to introduce you all to Dudu Dlamini from SWET, which is the Sex Workers Education and Advocacy Task Force, as well as an organization that she leads called Mothers for the Future that aims to take care of the rights of mothers who are sex workers, but also who have children. And of course, we have Yonela Sinqu, who of course is from Sisonke, the largest sex worker-led movement of South Africa, a very passionate activist and advocate for social workers' rights and other social justice movements as well. And last but not least, Letlhogonolo Mokgoroane, who is an advocate, a brilliant legal mind, and my best friend, who has worked both in South Africa, in the region, and globally on matters, legal matters, supporting the work, of course, of the UN Special Rapporteur on the Right to Health, as we defend the rights of sex workers throughout the world, including, of course, the European Court of Human Rights. And so welcome to the three of you. I'm very excited to have you here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Of course, the important issue on the table is sex work, right? And we know that this conversation is firstly important, but there are some misconceptions. But there are also people who just genuinely want to learn and to support advocacy around sex work decriminalization. And so we want to use this moment to firstly give information, support people understanding the different meanings, the different concepts, and also give a history, right, of where this advocacy comes from in South Africa, but also globally, because I know both of you are also connected in terms of advocacy to other spaces as well. What is sex work and why is it a human rights issue?
Sex work takes place every day and everywhere where the person is willing to render a service and the person is willing to buy the service. In my case, I advocate a lot on social media because the young ones are actually hopping onto social media. And the things you find there, la Facebook, it's horrendous what people are saying and doing. And when you actually look between the lines, this is actually sex work taking place here. But people are not fully admitting because there's so much stigma and marginalization that riddles the industry.
Akukho umsebenzi ongarecognize la eSouth Africa ngaphandle kwama-sex work.
It is an exchange of a service for a particular fee, right? And this is a negotiated transaction.
It's a service that is being rendered. Just like the person who did my hair, that person rendered a service and I paid for it. So should a pleasurable encounter such as sex.
Yeah. And I think it's important to also state that, sex work is consensual between adults.
Two adults.
Or more.
Or more.
Right? Or more.
Depending.
I know.
Even more.
It can be more. What's important is also to know that consent is key, right, to sex work. But also it's important to understand it as a labor issue because then it opens up particular access to other rights that under current criminalization perhaps may be difficult to achieve.
When sex work is criminalized, people's rights are being violated.
Amaphoyisa ayashaya asifake evenini angasicharge asifake isitokisini ezimdaka.
Because they know that these people have nowhere to go. They have nowhere to report this.
We know that the law is really powerful as a tool. And the intersection of law and medicine often means that in public health, there are certain health outcomes that are disproportionate, right, to particular people because of issues such as criminalization. Take us through, from your understanding, the differences, I suppose, between decriminalization, legalization, and why that legal framework is important for protecting rights.
I mean, we need to start here, right? The criminal law is for criminals, right? Are sex workers criminals?
No.
I didn't think so, right?
Asibulali.
Exactly. So we need to think of it as a morality issue. We know that the law is kind of morals. There are particular people who've decided what is right for a particular society. And we know as a result of this criminalization of a number of things, but in this particular instance, criminalization of sex work, right? It's more morality thing than it is a criminal law thing, although it is criminalized under the criminal law. Because when you ask people, okay, so why are we criminalizing sex workers? All of the answers will be moral. Oh, you're not supposed to buy sex. You're not supposed to, sex is between people who love each other. But what about people who cheat? So what do we say then? Is that not a morality thing? People who get married, who make vows and then step out, shouldn't that be criminalized?
Sure.
And so we need to understand that decriminalization is taking the criminal law away from sex workers. It's to say that these people are not committing a crime and therefore should not be arrested, right? That's one point. In order for us to get, let's assume, legalization, which is creating a mechanism for sex work to be regulated, we first need to decriminalize it. We can't just say, oh, let's say the Sex Workers Act. We still need to remove it from the criminal law and place it somewhere else and say, what processes work? A lot of people want to say, let's think about the Nordic model, right? But we'll say we can make that decisions once sex work has been decriminalized. There are certain people who, I suppose in truth, don't want to be exposed for the things they do in the bedroom. And decriminalization may allow sex workers to speak about who their list of clients are, right? Which they can't do now because, obviously they'll be arrested because you can't even say you're a sex worker. If we're all sitting here and we declare we're sex workers, technically we should all be arrested. But I like what you were saying, Yonela, about the idea that the person who did your hair rendered a service. We think of the act of sex as not service, right? But it is. Someone is giving you something that will pleasure you and they want to be paid for it.
And it's a service whether you are married or not married, whether it's a one-night stand or not. It doesn't remove it from that you are being of service. Whether you attach any level of morality to that or spirituality, but the point is you are engaged in an act of service where someone or some people, right, have consented to be participating in that. And so coming from a very local South Africa focused, Dudu, I want to hear from you some of the advocacy work you've done outside of South Africa, the different site visits that you've done and the research that you've done, because we know even internationally, full decriminalization is supported, right? UNAIDS, the WHO, International Labour Organization, those very critical human rights bodies support, right? Full decriminalization. So in your work overseas, when you are listening to other sex workers and sharing of those lived experiences, what is coming through and what does the global advocacy movement look like? And how do people start to actually help, support, and better understand what needs to happen?
Ngiqale ngaya e-Australia, ngayo experience ukuthi what does it look like decrim. And then I went to Sydney, whereby when I get there, I see their decrim. I can say it's half of decrim because it's still having laws who monitor them to make sure that they go to clinic, they take testing, and then they monitor in brothels. And I didn't like it. And then I came and then I went to Europe legalization, and I find Bama emaklasini.
We went to Amsterdam. We got a private tour
Yes,
together.
yes.
Yeah.
Ngiyacabanga ukuthi ngeke ilunge la eSouth Africa. It's not good for South Africa. Babe emaklasini and bafanele babe bancane, of which eSouth Africa siyazazi ukuthi we are selling services, but we don't want to be exposed. And then lawa ma-class azus expose, because la eSouth Africa asifuni nje expose ama-client ethu.
Because the stigma is also still
And
so
the stigma
high,
and
right?
discrimination iqala lapho, yayibona lona. Hayi ngabuya ke ngeza la eSouth Africa mina ke ngafuna ukuthi ngi-advocate i-full decriminalization of sex work in South Africa, who the laws that is not going to, I'm going not experiencing a stigma and discrimination. I'll be accessing health services without fear and I identify myself as a sister, another my partner, my client. Then please.
Big difference, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
In terms of your sexual health.
That is a healthy decrim.
Yeah.
Whereby we're going to able to exercise fully our rights, and then we're able to report cases in police stations, and then we're going to able to be recognized as work, of which le msebenzi akukho umsebenzi ongarecognize la eSouth Africa ngaphandle kwawama sex work. Ngasuka lapho ke ukuthi mangabe ngithi ngiqala iadvocacy, ngahamba nginomsindo ngaya kaStrait. Vivian Lalu, uyena lo involved with advocacy. That's why it's important to do advocacy, to advocating for sex, full decriminalization of sex work. That time I didn't understand what is decrim, and then I learned from Gwaswet what is decrim, why is important, and then it's whereby I pause, and then I said I want to do my own activism to shout, ngibe verbal, yabo, ngibe kuma platform, ngishare itoni experience, was why is ifuna decrim, and then ngajoyina uSwet, a sex advocacy and advocacy task force. Ngajoyina kuSwethi ke ngaleso sikhathi ngaqala ngaba involved ngaba ema platform ahlukahlukene, and then it's whereby ngangishare istory zami ezama reality, and then yini ama sex work ayidingayo ebalulekile kakhulukazi i-decrim, because our human rights are violated and not recognized.
I mean, the controlling of sexuality in general, we know it is a patriarchal issue, right? But specifically the control of women's sexuality and pleasure, and also Black women, right?
Yes.
And
But also gender and trans people, right? So we think about the ways in which, like, feminized bodies, so to say, have always been under the guise of protection. But it is the fact that you, as a person who's said to be marginalized or at the back of men, can't enjoy. And so that's why we come.
it's as if it's preserved for men. So if you dare enjoy it, never mind then make profit of it, right? It's like scandalous to not only just enjoy sex, but to also then make money out of it.
What is more irritating is when color is attached to it, because most sex workers are Black women, and then deemed as uneducated and poor. It's almost like a space where they say, they don't have other options. So they're poor, they're Black, and therefore we have to protect them. Let's treat them a certain manner, and then it's not seen as work. And then we will still get individuals who will even refuse to change terminology from sex work. I mean, from prostitute to sex work. We still have people who will still frown upon the fact that you are in the sex work industry, and then they will say, you're just a prostitute, what's wrong with you? And you're so, with that level of stigma, and even women shaming other women for even delving in the trade, it's truly unacceptable.
What you say about class, right? Because it kind of makes it seem as if these women are coerced, right?
Yeah.
That these women who want to do sex work don't have agency.
No.
Right? And we also need to make a distinction between sex trafficking, human trafficking, and sex work, right?
Yeah.
Those two are coercive.
And there are also laws in place to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
we can't blame sex workers for their
sex-
inability
exactly.
of law enforcement to tackle those. And that's what often tends to happen, right? And here's the thing, when I've joined you on advocacy before and listened to the needs of sex workers in different spaces, both outdoor and indoor. What do sex workers need for a safety, healthy occupational environment? Because we're talking about sex work as a legitimate form of work. I mean, it is recognized by the International Labour Organization. It's recognized by various UN human rights agencies as well. Beyond worrying about HIV, right, for a long time, has been the entry point. What are sex workers needing for a healthy occupation environment?
First of all, we need to stop with the excuses. That is the first need. Because everything that is preventing the decriminalization of sex work is nothing but an excuse. Because it's an excuse that, it's going to promote human trafficking. It's going to, our little girls, our this, our that. And the actual fact is that sex workers need to be recognized as human beings and that they have human rights too. Just like the next person. I mean, it's inscribed in our constitution that you have the right to economic freedom, you have the right to healthcare, you have the right. But those rights are taken away from sex workers because now if I don't render a service and I don't earn my money, then I'm deterred from getting my economic freedom. And if I am not accessing my health fully because I cannot now disclose that I don't have a partner, I have clients, I am deterred from accessing my health right fully.
And that's why for me, you are the greatest to ever do it. And personally, one of the people that I really respect and continue to learn a lot from. And so my favorite people, thank you for being with me today. And I know that you've been engaging in a lot of hard work that requires a lot of energy and stamina, pun intended, and a lot of focus, right? And I want us to take this moment now to really just focus in on what your dreams are, what you want to celebrate, what you want to bring all of our collective attention to, right? In this matter of sex work is work. And so I want to give you an opportunity to toast to something. And we will support you, and we are making a commitment, right, to always be by your side, never below you, never above you, but always by your side as allies in this journey. So, Yonela, what are you toasting to?
I would like to raise my glass to all the sex workers out there who dare not to remain silent on the decriminalization of sex work.
Abonje bangikhangela i-decrim ngala ngithi chess ngizoyifumana noma ngabe i-coalition.
To the law family recognizing sex workers as human beings. Cheers.
And of course, cheers to you for joining us for this amazing episode of the Dr. Tlaleng Show. I hope we've taken you much deeper and further into your understanding of why sex work is work, why sex work intersects with human rights, gender equality, of course, social justice, and more importantly, what is decriminalization, who is a sex worker, and in which spaces do they do their business. And of course, I want to say on a personal note that a lot of the feminism and all of the support that I've enjoyed as a young woman, a young feminist finding her way in this space, it has always been sex workers who've always had my back. And so it's an absolute privilege and an honor today to have hosted, firstly, Yonela Sinqu, Dudu Dlamini, and of course, Letlhogonolo Mokgoroane, to bring us these important, insightful conversations. Remember to like and subscribe out to our channel, and please share this widely with your networks, and also leave some comments for us so that we know how to best bring, of course, the best pleasurable experiences for you through the Dr. Tlaleng Mofokeng Show. I am Dr. Tlaleng Mofokeng. Thank you for tuning in.